Hi everybody, I'm Kristen from the St. Joe County Department of Health and the Reducing Obesity Coalition, and today we're making chicken spaghetti. So let me show you what we're working with. So we've got some raw chicken. Any choice of noodle that you prefer. I went with bow tie or farfalle. You can also do different spaghetti noodles, so we have whole wheat or regular, depending on what you prefer. We've got our seasonings here. So I have basil, garlic powder, oregano, onion, and my salt and pepper snails. And then we have the sauce portion. So I did get some regular tomato sauce. I've also got crushed or diced tomatoes. And this one is just in like the tomato juice, nothing specific. And then just in case if we need to thicken it up, I've got tomato paste. Or if you happen to just have regular old sauce, I have some left over just in case we need more juice. And some cheese. We've got Italian style cheese, and then a little bit of Neuchâtel cheese if we need to thicken it up as well. So let me spin you back around here. Okay, let's make sure we can get everybody. All right, so with the chicken, what we're working with is our raw chicken here. There we go. And I already got the noodles cooked and they're off to the side. And we're gonna spray the pan here. So here, I'll work with this one. So I've got spray olive oil and I kind of prefer that one, but if you have just the regular olive oil, that works too. If you prefer butter, use just a little bit because we just got to make sure that we don't burn the chicken. Okay, so put that on a medium to high heat, let that heat up. And I like to cut my chicken in little cubes. And so to make sure that you don't, there we go, you gotta wash your hands, okay? So if you're gonna add any vegetables into this, you gotta make sure that you have a whole different cutting station for those, just for food safety. So I cut my chicken into small cubes before I'm gonna cook it, and make sure it's thawed, because if you're using frozen chicken, this is not gonna work out the same. So it's gotta thaw out, and these are about the sizes that I'm working with. And they'll cook a little bit quicker. So the chicken pasta that we're gonna do here, or the chicken spaghetti, we're gonna cook the chicken on the stovetop, and then we're gonna bake the spaghetti all together with some melty cheese. So the original recipe to this one had a couple different cheeses in Velveeta, which isn't always widely available, and also it has a lot of salt and different preservatives in it. So we're gonna use some fresh chicken and some low-fat cheese, and that way it's a little bit healthier. And the key with this recipe is having a lot of seasoning. So I tend to, and you can ask my husband this, but I tend to under-season things. And so the more the merrier. I'm excluding a lot of salt from this because I can get a little salt crazy if I don't realize it. And so make sure if you're using garlic that it's regular garlic and not garlic salt, because I made that mistake once while making shrimp and it was not edible. So it's okay, it's a learning process. You don't have to be a master chef to do any of these recipes. So I can hear my pan heating up. Okay, and we're gonna add in the chicken. There we go. And at this point, you're gonna wanna wash your hands. So excuse me for a moment. Okay. Fantastic. And I do have a dog off screen or on screen, I can't quite tell, and she's staring me down. If you don't have a vacuum, she's a great vacuum. All right, so then we're gonna get a fork here and kind of move it around. So the way you can tell your chicken is done is if you have a food thermometer and it's 165 degrees in the center. If you're using chicken breasts, these little pieces are gonna be kind of hard to measure temperature because you might go all the way through with your thermometer. So here's my food thermometer, and I got it, I think, at the dollar store or something like that. But it tells you the different degrees on here, and you'll just poke it in the center. But with these small pieces, they tend to cook rather quickly, and you can usually tell by color. And so I mentioned that just for these small pieces, because if you're going just by color on the chicken breast, it may look like it's done, but not quite. And so I'll show you what I mean. So as it's cooking, it changes like a white color. And the reason is, raw chicken or undercooked chicken can cause foodborne illness, and we do not want that. And of course I have a dog here in mine, and luckily I'm just cooking for myself and my family. And we're kind of used to having dog hair. It's a bit of a seasoning that we use here. So speaking of seasoning, we're gonna take more of this olive oil. Just grease up our chicken there, and we're gonna add some seasoning. So at this point, I'm gonna add my onion powder. There we go. And I tend to not measure, but if you're more comfortable measuring, you can use a teaspoon of each of these. And garlic powder. There we go. A little bit of salt. Woo, that was a lot of bit. See, it goes crazy. And a little bit of pepper. There we go. And you can use whatever seasonings you want at this point. These are just the ones that I like. There we go. Move that around. And if you have like a slotted spoon or some sort of easier utensil to use for this, that's totally fine. I just had a fork out. Okay, and you'll see that the seasoning is coating some of these guys. And I'm going to cut these up smaller as we go. And they're going to go into this like chicken bake casserole that we're making. There we go. And so I like to make casseroles, or I really should make more casseroles, because they tend to be fairly easy. And they feed a family for more than just one day. So especially if I want tacos or something like that, and I'm on a bit of a time crunch, and I know that for the next few days I might not be able to cook dinner, I'll make a taco bake. So I'll have to do a recipe on that one as well. There we go. So while that's cooking, I just kind of chop it up with my, not a spatula, my claws here. Perfect. So some of the recipes that we've done with the Reducing Obesity Coalition is pizza. We have done tacos. We've done different soups. We've done healthy desserts. So those are some videos that we'll post on our YouTube as well. There we go. These are cooking pretty well. So I still have a medium-high heat, and they're not burning or anything. They're getting a little bit whiter, but you can tell that this one is not done, right? It's white on the outside, but you have to cut into it so you can tell. It's still got that rubbery pink texture to it. And so the difference is with like red meat, some people have it, you know, medium well, things like that. But with chicken, you can't do that. And this is a recipe. You could also use canned chicken if you wanted. You can use, you know, pre-prepared chicken like a rotisserie chicken. That would be fairly easy and probably cut this process down by like 10 minutes, where you would shred it up and put it into the concoction that we'll get to. And if you're trying to hide vegetables into this, I would suggest putting in onions and green peppers or different colored peppers, and you would just cut them up and have them steaming in another pan. So doing similar process to this, but cutting them up small, and then putting them in a pan with some oil and moving it around, and then have a lid on top so that way they steam. And then that's an easy way to get vegetables into this dish. And you can use, like I mentioned, any form of spaghetti noodle, or I call them all spaghetti, but I guess they're all technically pasta. Spaghetti is a certain shape. But I thought the bow ties would be really fun. So this is the longest part, and this is a part if you have like an older child that you can help. This could be a portion that they could do, just making sure that they have tongs that might be a little bit longer. I'm kind of used to the short ones. And I'm kind of just chopping up the chicken as we go. There we go. I'm going to let that go here. And I'll show you what we're doing with the sauce. Okay. So the sauce, and sorry, I'm working with the tripod here. There we go. Woo! The sauce will kind of have off to the side, so let me get a bowl. And actually, you know what? I'm going to use the container we're going to put the spaghetti in. There we go. So this is one of the containers that I'm going to use. Okay, so we'll put in our sauce. And I'm going to use about 1.5 just to see how that goes. And our diced tomatoes. So I'm going to drain that one. And I really like canned tomatoes. I use them in a lot of different recipes. If you want to use fresh tomatoes, that works too. There we go. Use about most of the can there and just kind of eyeball it. Now, basil. Woo! I like basil. Oregano. And you can get just some regular Italian spices and add that in there as well. A little bit more garlic powder. There we go. An onion. Okay. And I'm going to get a spoon to mix this up. just to have it ready. And like I said, if this is a little bit too runny for your taste, that's totally fine. You can add a little bit of tomato paste or use a pre-made sauce. Okay, so that's off to the side here. Now let's see how our chicken's doing. There we go. This is my little kitchen that I work in all the time. And keep in mind, everyone's oven, everyone's stove is a little bit different, especially with heat. So that's why I say medium to high heat. Mine is like between 4 and 6. So whatever that might mean for you. Just to make sure that your chicken gets cooked all the way. So we're getting closer. You notice there's less pink. Smells pretty good. Getting a little bit brown on the edges there. And I personally like smaller pieces in my spaghetti bakes. If you like bigger chunks, more power to you. Just make sure you cut them up enough so that you can tell they are cooked. There we go. And so the portion where we're going to put this in the oven, and let me set that up for about 350. It's just going to melt everything, so everything's going to be cooked. It's just to make sure that everything melts together. So we're not going to cook this or make this chicken to the point where it's still got pink inside. I want it all the way cooked. So it's still going to be nice and juicy in your bake because it's surrounded by all the pasta sauce and soon cheeses. So it's going to look really nice. It's going to taste pretty good too. And so you might ask, what if I use a different sauce like Alfredo? Well, you could use that, but you know, with a little healthier twist, it's better to use the marinara because Alfredo is a cream-based sauce. And that has a lot more fat in it, which isn't a bad thing, but just keep that in mind. Okay, I believe we're almost done with these guys. We're very close. We'll give them a few more minutes here. You see how much browner they are than earlier, and we've got some burnage on the bottom of the pan with the seasoning, so might need a little more oil next time, but it's doing pretty well. I tend to burn a little bit of something each time I cook, so I have the window open. There we go. And like I said, with these cooking classes, we're just cooking recipes that, you know, everyone is familiar with. There we go. So like with our pizza, for example, we do a self-rising flour and Greek yogurt, and that may sound a little funny, but it turns out to be a really fluffy, delicious dough for your pizza. Okay, this looks pretty much done here. So let me show you what it would look like if we tried to do the thermometer. I'll try to find like a thicker piece. And see, it almost goes through the side. And so you're not going to be able to get the best reading of it. So just keep that in mind. We're looking good. Okay, 2 more seconds with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the heat. I'm going to add in my sauce very carefully. So I just mixed it in here to show you guys what it looks like, but you could always add it into the pan and skip that step. Oh, that smells really good. You're going to mix that together. And also, at this point, if you wanted to add any spinach in, okay, add that in until it's floppy. That would be a delicious way to hide in some vegetables as well, because it gets really small and not a lot of kids notice. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Kids are really picky. But it takes on the flavor of whatever seasonings you put in here. And so same for adults. That's a way I get my husband to eat more spinach, because he's not just going to eat it in a salad. There we go. Okay, so let me wipe down the side of my pan here. There we go. So I'm not going to say I'm a cooking professional, but I make food. And that's okay. So at this point, this is where your vegetables that are cooked would be. Your chicken is in here. These tomatoes will heat up pretty fast, so no worries about, you know, leaving them in here a long time to cook. There we go. So that's heated up a little bit. Oh, sorry, I'm going to keep that on. So we're going to make it a little cheesy. And I'm going to add just a little bit of Neufchâtel. So this is the way I make my dishes rather creamy. And you can add just a little bit of shredded mozzarella or shredded Italian cheese. And I got mine from Aldi. And all of this is fairly cheap. especially with the chickens. So if you get like chicken breast, and I usually get the family pack, and there's just 2 of us, but you can freeze it and it lasts much longer. And keep in mind, when you're freezing chicken, you don't want it in there too much longer than about a month. And in the refrigerator for leftovers with this, you don't want it in the fridge much longer than about 3 days. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of cream cheese. Kids really like cream cheese, keep that in mind. And I did the low-fat cream cheese. And you notice there's not gonna be a ton of salt in what we have involved here. In cheese, there's more salt. So you're gonna get the salt. If you don't add it in from the shaker, you're gonna get it in from the cheese. There we go, that'll work. And you kind of have to chop it up a little bit. And I like to use white cheeses with my red sauce, but you can use any cheese that you like. As for like portioning, if you're worried about that, about a handful, and I don't have the biggest hands, but about a handful of cheese is about a cup. So that's plenty of cheese. Okay, can you really have plenty of cheese? I don't know. I like cheese. But for the sake of being a little bit healthier, since cheese has a lot of salt, and we have half the fat. So see, that's a little bit creamier. Perfect. Okay, so let me turn that off. Make sure you guys are with me here. Perfect. So I have my noodles off to the side. They're a little bit stiff because I got them done early. So we have some sauce at the bottom of the pan, which is perfect. That way we don't have any burning. So we'll take noodles, and I'm gonna hand them since they're not really hot anymore. There we go, and kind of lay out a layer. Whoop, we're all stuck. There we go. And like I said, this is just gonna heat up everything and make it nice and melty. And then we're gonna add in some sauce. And this is a part where if you're working with kids, then you need to be careful. Maybe this is a part that you do as a parent. But just watch, because it's rather hot. Okay, and then I kind of mix it around in that bottom layer. There we go. And I'll get our Italian style cheese. So this is an Aldi cheese, and there's 3 cups in there, so keep that in mind. So that would be a rather big handful for 1 cup. I'm gonna take just a little sprinkle. Okay, that was kind of a hefty sprinkle. That's fine. There we go. And then we'll add our noodles again. So think of it like this little layered lasagna concept. And like I said, you can use any noodle, and if you're gonna use a long spaghetti noodle, I usually break mine in half, and that way they're not as long and ridiculous to cook. Oops, did I lose anybody? No, we're good. Okay, very carefully do this step. I'm just gonna add the rest of it and mix it together. There you go. And so like I said, this could be a very quick and easy process if you have canned chicken, or if you have a rotisserie chicken. That's what my mom would usually use when she made this one. There we go, and that's pretty hot, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then the rest of our noodle. Get in there. Whoop, come on, guys. And yes, I usually push my pans off of the hot area, but keep in mind that it's still hot. So those little hands. Perfect. So it looks like we have a good amount of sauce for my preference. If you want it saucier, you can add that in as needed. All right. And then we're gonna top it off with a little bit more cheese. There we go. And so like I said, this is, you know, it's not your crunchy granola, just eating salads kind of healthy. These are little steps that you can make with your family. And of course, you know, I'm a big pasta eater, so this is a way that I can make it a little bit healthier for myself, but still in a way that I like it. So now we're gonna put it in the oven until the cheese is melted on the top. Let me show you what that looks like. And that is chicken spaghetti.